whether you're on the side of this, the status quo, and all that, it matters only when the sake of our freedoms of humanity. What is freedom? People keep yapping, I keep yapping on about freedom, but what is it? The freedom to enjoy your life, to live freely. I had a situation with my landlord. Well, technically, she is my biological parent. I'm not gonna say woe me, but is this the life you want? Do you want people to follow your rules for the sake of, so you can live safely out? If we're already toiling on this earth and wasting our lives so that we can feel a sense of power, time, all that kind of philosophical stuff, is it not better to die with freedom than it is to live in for the sake of, cowering in fear? It's like a zombie apocalypse without zombies. The zombies are the minuscule, tiny virus fragments that everyone's scared of. And what's this going to achieve? I'm not a scientist or any expert, but I can definitely know that humanity has survived for thousands of years. And there is probably most definitely something worse than the coronavirus that we've even survived. Not to mention the the plague, the Black Death, even the the Greece epidemic, the Athens plague. So many things even before that. The worst viruses I heard about. This article in the Diplomat about this Tibetan Manchurian virus. Was it polio or something, or some kind of hemorrhagic fever? I forgot. And yet people still survive, and everyone's crazy about this, and they're trying to push themselves to the status quo. They're trying to like it. They're trying to feel so they can survive. They're trying to say, yep, what they're doing is right. What they're doing. And do you see the irony in all of this? People always think, conspiracy theory, you're a nutter, you're a case. But how can an ostrich, how can an ostrich, or at least it would be nonsensical for a human to dig their head into the sand and think a tsunami's not coming? Or it would be, it's quite infantile for an argument point, but the point, there is a certainty that for the sake of technology, for the sake of eugenics, for the sake of what? That we're supposed to lay down. They already laid the foundation for capitalism for us in the first place. Consume, consume, consume. And now as we consume, we don't know any better, and people are all, just blasted. When it comes to sustainability, like, going back to actually how can you sustain these things? It's so funny when people are mad about Japan killing whales and all this kind of animal abuse and whatsoever it is, but they don't bat an eye, and in fact they go against it. I think it's just a minority, It's the majority or whatever, the people who just want to say, no, everything's going fine, everything's going the way it is. There's nothing wrong with that. Reminds me of my teacher, at school, he was always the kind of guy who always wanted to feel that, he's living the life, everything's nothing wrong. Of course, I don't blame, the have-nots or the haves. I don't blame the haves at all, But it goes too far when you're consolidating that power. And, you just want to get everyone else away. The people in Africa, and that's a fact. There are millions in Africa. There's, they're dying of coronavirus because, they have little medical equipment, staff. South Africa right now is going through a phase of humongous proportions of, despair and all of this. As a spiritual people here, if whatever they're gonna say to you, it doesn't matter. The earth right now is just at a low point, and in the scale of vibrations, most people are at unease. I've been staying up. People have probably been staying up. Besides, if it's an insomnia problem or anything like that. There's a point I also want to make out here. What's so funny? What is so funny about this lockdown? The Western countries. At first, everyone was like against China. This and that, communist. Totalitarian. Xi Jinping. But the funny goddamn thing is, the Western countries copied the model of what China did as a lockdown. They copied that model. They thought it was so great, and then they put it into effect all the countries. You hate China, but Mark Zuckerberg is in love with TikTok, and that's old news. Whatever. But you've got so many people wanting to follow how China does it, but they hate China anyways. It's like 1984. We're at war with Eurasia. But no, we're not. We're allies. Actually, in fact, we are thinking about making a concession. They're doing two different hypocritical things. Hypocrisy at its finest. And why? Because they want control. Think about it. How is it a conspiracy theory? I don't care about those, maybe it's non-logical, nonsensical, but how is it not true? Think about it. What do we have to gain if, world's population, sure, they may run data statistics on that, but data, statistics, algorithms, all that computer stuff doesn't account the human factor. What is biological is far more complicated than what, at least, a machine can do. AI, even that. So I don't understand how or why, I'm not saying that, simplistically, death is something that we should all avoid, but we should live our lives. We should go together, find out, play in the dirt. Don't be too dirty, All of this for what? Why do they accept this? First they wanted to work our bloody asses off, and now they want to stay at home for our safety. And then, what's they gonna say? They're gonna want us to work twice as hard. Even worse, to get back to the steps. Forget about the money. If you really want our safety, if you really want the economy to be functioning, you should not give two craps about this, and you should find out what is possible. And yet, because of this, are we going to have to work for the sake of money made out, that we're paying tax? And I have a friend, right? He's, he posted a thing on Instagram, and it was about this New Zealand terrorist, the Christchurch killer, Brendan Tarrant, and yeah. A lot of people kill animals for the sake of food. Our sauce. But yet, we give all these resources to this guy so that he can what? Live life in prison? Jesus. To hell with it already. And the hypocrisy, I've heard about stories, journalistic stories, news that even the Muslims weren't cared for before the terrorist incident happened. New Zealand has had a lot of racism, has had a lot of issues in the past, and continuously it does so. Unfortunately, I don't have a way out of here. I need to get my finances in order, and all that. But what is the point of living life if you're gonna really slave it away for the sake of living? Just living. Depending. It makes me pissed to see that back then humanity had survived all on its own through oral knowledge, through family, through the tribe, through decisions that are made by, small groups or communities, and whether or not they, propose harsh punishments, they just caused humanity at the time, didn't bother to ask or reason why or had much foresight about the intended consequences and all that of, breaking these behaviors and that. But we're getting to that point. We are finally figuring out foresight. We're finally figuring out the hindsight, the intuition, the heart, many things. And yet at this point, what are we doing? This is pointless. Of course, I don't want to see my loved one from dying of coronavirus as well, but so many people die of any cause, natural causes, anything. And yet in the end, they want us to stay safe. Hypocritical. You don't ban the bars. You don't ban the clubs. You don't ban, you don't ban what becomes of violence, like Clockwork Orange, You don't, people have to figure out why they do all this. But the government doesn't place a hand on anything. Of course it doesn't. You can't control that. But one little thing like this and people want to control, it's a grave matter. Was it a grave matter when the Zika virus invaded New Zealand? Oh, everyone was scared about that as well. I think my parents were pretty scared, but no one else was. Free. Jesus. Of course, I wouldn't like to die a painful death, of COVID-19 as well, but seeing how it is, at least it's more of a experience than it is, being an office worker, being, a bloody, you're functioning as the cogs in a gear for what? And now everyone's in sham about this economy and, people are talking about entrepreneurship and all that. And they're just covering up the lies. They're just showing, I can do this, I can do that. Much. We don't have time anymore For the young ones, maybe, yes, they still go and they pursue some designated whatever the market's out there, they're like robots now, I guess, efficient robots. Let them be, they're good, they're good. Young kids are pretty good these days. I'm young as well, but I feel like I'm pretty just seen, just seeing things, I mean, you have to experience them, but at least, you have the knowledge of the internet, and, that is a wonderful time. But, I had a notion in 2019 when I went to the Auckland Harbour. I was sitting there watching the fireworks, and I was thinking, I don't know what's gonna happen, 2020. Is it gonna be a good year, or is it gonna be a bad year? Will we lose our freedoms? Will we have it all right, all fine? And I guess, the depressing fact is, I never knew it would come to this stage. Hopefully everyone out there stays well with their jobs, they do what they can do. And, with the job and everything, you just don't need to worry too much about coronavirus. After all, it's your housing, it's your food and all that, If you grow your own farm, your own vegetables, your own livestock, of course you'd be fine by this. And of course you have so much stress as well. But that is, again, to the point, isn't it, about our nature? Isn't that the point? We've come so far. I've downloaded like this survival books, and it just makes me think, there's so much info on there. Things won't go shit hits the fan straight away, but just think. Just bloody think. Everyone wants to enjoy the lives they're given. Sure, we all want to do that. But it's the rich that while they're enjoying their lives, they urge the poor of the others to do the same because they have had more resources. But the poor can't afford it. The poor, or at least it's not about rich or poor, mostly it is. But the people who lack the fundamentals, the things they need, what if they're disabled, mentally disabled? What if a person, can't even grasp mentally arithmetic, mathematics, and needs to succeed in life? You tell me then, is it worth staying at home in lockdown, frustrated by all of this so-called damn safety and all of that, when mankind has been living out thousands of years? And so many more. We've been dodging predators, we've been assimilating. Well, we've not been assimilating, we've been getting our environment to assimilate with us, but still. That just, it fuddles my mind. Of course, those who have their resources, why would they care? They'll tell you to go follow it along. It's like, the usual, oh man, you can do it, it's fine, go follow your passion, when they know they follow their own way, it works for them, they have the support. And you know what, I don't care who you are, what you do, whether you're proud, you fail, I don't want to think about you too much. Just, you know what, yeah, go for it. That's the honest, brutal truth. They're forcing the methods on us for some kind of, I don't know, man. Is life really worth it living this way? I don't think so. I don't think you struggle. First of all, for the weak, the oppressed, the disabled, the ones who are rich in surface, But when they get, people who give birth to disabled children and all that, it just makes me feel sick. It's insane. You give birth to a disabled child, and then you need to go on a whole oh, you still need to follow rules. I care so much about your safety and all this. You give birth already to a disabled child. You can at least make things so much more easier by just, letting up on the rules. If a person's disabled, he's really placed under physical restrictions on his body, mental restrictions on his body. And you ask him to follow more goddamn rules? You can't teach him how to unlock, how to do things in a way that proves his potential, even if you don't know, it might not be true, or it might be true that in the end he can't do much. He really is at that level. He is really at his limit. But humans change. Humans overcome their limits. And yet, as I see today, we're destroying, we're devolving into pros, we're devolving into something that I fear to say we are not going to even be human at the end of 2025 or 2030. I'm not a religious nut. It just makes me think, ever since I started questioning, I've always questioned before, through my childhood, and even until now, and you had so many philosophical, even games like Assassin's Creed, the first Assassin's Creed. It makes me realize that when are we going to get that level of thinking back? Is everything now so degraded, downgraded for the sake of money, profit, power, and immortality if they seek it? How foolish, how arrogant. It just makes me sick. I mean, I would, as they say, I would love to have power too, I could live out the rest of my life in luxury and all that. That's everybody wants that. But we have to really think long-term scenario, as we always have. For those who can only push as far as they can, they have to do something about it. They have to think, how does this benefit my weaknesses, that I can remove them slowly by slowly, all this for the sake of power, us versus them, yeah, I'm right, you're wrong kind of mentality. And lapdogs, just, I don't understand. People argue about religion and all that, and religion is almost in the same level. If you're atheism versus theism, that argument should be brought upon also to what the state is doing. Is the state doing right? Are we truly understanding this? These politicians are normal, like you and me. They are the same, they share the same blood as well, unless if they're literally, scarily reptilians, or aliens, or some kind of form of life form. And you've got to consider that, because honestly, people laugh at it, people mock at it, but the time has come for us to think thoroughly that there has to be more than just us. If we are this stupid, if mankind is this stupid, if mankind is this wise as well, outliers, whom the humans did not even call their own brothers, the mathematicians, Ramanujan, the people who so many that gave gifts to this world, but weren't even recognized. As they, Christ said, a prophet is not even recognized in his hometown. It just it just makes me think that are we truly the race? That are we alone here? Because if we're this backwards, I'm sure the Earth is only 4.59 billion, 8 billion years old. Come on, 4.5. That's like only 4 eons. And the universe has been far, far longer than that. I'm not expecting, an alien planet to, form quickly. So, a planet habitable for life quickly, but at the source, it should be, no scientific knowledge of, I can't be so sure, but of course, if the source, if, it's a Big Bang, or if it's some sort of, from electricity, something came into being, by laws of mathematics and all that. Of course, maybe the ones at the source should be much more quicker to grow than the ones further from the galaxy, and entropy and all that. I'm just speculating. It's all speculation, but I have no knowledge about this. Who should you to be believed? But yet, somehow that's common sense, shouldn't it? The closer you are, the easier it is to form, and the faster it becomes to grow. Isn't that not true? If you already have it, it will grow stronger. If you do not have it, you will only sustain, or if you will grow weaker. After all, that's just what it is, isn't it? Okay, good luck.